Greetings, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I have two guests with me today. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time on either podcast that I've had two guests at the same time. So we have Kurt Mosely and Neill Marshall, who are both in the recruitment space, executive recruitment. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we're going to have some fun talking about what recruiters are really listening for, what you need to convey to them in those first conversations to see if there's a fit and to move forward. So I'll let you guys take it from here.
Well,
Sure.
great.
Thanks, Lisa. We appreciate being here. My name's Neill Marshall. I'm the board chair and co-founder of Health Search Partners. We're as you said, an executive search firm, and we specialize in hospitals and healthcare leadership. I've been doing this for 30 years, 600 plus senior level placements. And also along with Kurt, we designed our first 90-day series, which is an ongoing exploration of how CEOs can make an impact early in their tenure.
And I love that about your company. I think that's such a differentiator that you can help them beyond just getting them in the new role. Kurt?
Oh, great. My name is Kurt Mosely. I'm the association practice leader at Health Search Partners. And all my life, or last 30 years, I've been a nationally recognized speaker on workforce authority, and more than 35 years experience. And I was formerly the vice president of strategic alliances at AMN Healthcare, which I advise hundreds of state hospitals, association, medical societies, and health focused nonprofits on leadership and strategy. And as Neill said, partnering with Neill, he and I guide hospital boards through executive transitions, and it highlights the basis for our, as Neill mentioned, our acclaimed 90-day series. So excited to be here. So.
And one of the things that we talked about when we first met was I was very clear in saying, this can't just be about how people in the healthcare profession find jobs. And what I came to realize in talking with you is what you do is very representative. You work with a wide range of individuals. You work in your case, in a very high demand field where there's quite a bit at stake, which is often the case in corporate America as well. So I think anybody who is listening in really any field is going to get benefit from getting some insight from executive recruiters. And I think a good place to start is to differentiate between executive recruitment and I call it third party or contingency recruiters. I know I have to talk to my clients one-on-one a lot about the difference so that they know what questions to ask when a recruiter reaches out to them. Tell me, if you will, where you guys fit into that and what's the difference?
Well, Lisa, executive recruiters like us, we operate on a retained basis, which what that
Mm-hmm.
means is we are semi-contracted by the hiring authority. We report directly to them, whoever it's the hospital board, whether it's a council board, it could be a county board member, whatever, but we report directly to them. So again, we're engaged exclusively with them from defining their role through onboarding, contingency, recruiters only get paid if they place someone. So it's a little bit different. And so they're often working on multiple searches, if you will, with multiple
Mm-hmm.
candidates. So the hiring board, we work directly with them and we report directly to them, and our process is reported to them. So it's really a exclusive retained basis, direct face to face. And that helps us focus on cultural fit, leadership
Mm-hmm.
experience, capabilities, and really long-term success, not just filling a vacancy.
And I usually think of the executive search firms as stepping in at a higher level, higher pay. Within healthcare, do you see it as sometimes even jobs that aren't as high paid if they're in very high demand? Or where do you see that sort of switch from third party to retained search?
Yeah, I would say that it's more on the higher compensation level. Most executive search firms kind of have a minimum. I think now the big boys probably have a minimum fee of about 100,000, which means that they start at salary levels of 300
Mm-hmm.
plus.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Um, if you take a third of the comp, that's the fee typically. So
Okay.
at 300,000, a third of that's 100. So that's a pretty typical minimum fee for the big boys.
Gotcha. So a third, but to be clear, that does not come out of the candidate's
Yeah, no,
first year
no,
paycheck. That is an
no, no.
additional 100,000 that the
Yeah,
company, I do get that question as well.
yeah, no, no, no. They never. The candidate never pays anything with regards to the executive search firm, and frankly, they should never try and go around the executive search firm, because
Yeah.
the organization's not going to save money, and frankly, when they do it, they're typically funneled right back to the executive search firm, and it's not a good look.
Yeah. Okay. Good tip there. So let's say that you find a qualified candidate out there. Maybe you're, on LinkedIn like a lot of recruiters are, or wherever it is you're looking. How do you typically make an initial contact and what information are you trying to gain in that initial conversation, whether it's an email or whatever it is?
Sure. So let's say that it is a LinkedIn contact, and I see somebody whose background I don't know them, but I think their background might be appropriate for a specific opportunity. I'll send them a quick note, connection request note, and say, "Hey, I'm doing a project. Would you like to just have a quick chat about it?" And if they respond, I'll typically then send them the position description,
Hmm.
which is usually in our business, it's pretty detailed, 20, 30 pages of information about the position, the organization, the community. I mean, everything that you can imagine, right? So we send
Hmm.
them the position description, and then ask to set up a time to talk. Now, back when I started in this business, Lisa, it was a telephone call, right?
Hmm.
I don't believe in telephone calls anymore.
You need to see their
Um,
face, don't you?
I'm
You want to see the body language.
I want to see everything, and we can, right?
Right.
And so because of that, then I'll set up a Zoom conference. Typically, 15 minutes is all we need to be able to figure out whether they're appropriate, or a good fit. And one of the things that I say is a Zoom invite is not a request. And by that, I mean, you need to be on camera, with me, totally focused on me, or we're going to reschedule, or we're never going to talk again. So the Zoom is not a request. It's we're going to do a Zoom.
As opposed to, I'm assuming you mean like, hey, I'm in my car driving. Is that okay? Because I
R-
even as a coach, I make a very clear distinction that I'm not going to endanger your life, but also you
Right.
can't focus. I'm trying to coach you to help you grow your career. I can't expect you to retain that appropriately. You certainly can't take notes while you're driving down the interstate.
That's it. That's exactly right. And so that's what I mean. I mean, I've had folks that are, you know, in the middle of an airport terminal with things in the background. That's not what I'm talking.
Doesn't.
I'm talking about totally focused. I'm focused on you. I'm giving you 100% of my energy and time, and I expect you to do the same.
So when you talked about this 25, 30 page packet, I assume is that part of the service that you provide? And I think I heard you say that would include things like, here's what you need to know about the community that the hospital is in or the healthcare facility. Here's what you need to know about the leadership of the hospital, etc. So it's all of like all the FAQs someone would want to know whether this was even interesting to them.
Yeah, absolutely. We put that together for the client. Number one, to make sure that we understand what the
Hmm.
client is looking for, right? So this is after spending days interviewing the client on what they're looking for and how. Then we also put together information on the organization because it's somebody wants is going to want that type of information. And then, goals and objectives, reporting relationships, organization charts, and then really detailed information about the community, all in one place. I want you to be able to read that information, and have a very clear picture of what the client's looking for before you and I ever speak.
Sure, there's no reason to meet if it's just not at all a good fit. Now, when a I assume sometimes candidates reach out to you and initiate a conversation to see if there's a fit. Is there any difference in how you navigate through the beginning of that relationship when they're the ones instigating?
Well, Lisa, I think they're both the same. It's a candidate reaching out to us. Um, I know I want them to be prepared if they call me. I want them to be intentional, especially if it's they're not just out there saying, what do I want? Not just, oh, I'm open for anything. Um, State the purpose of why they're calling, what they're looking for. They may be looking at an opportunity we have on our website. I'm really interested at that time to make sure they know what that job is, they can articulate it. Um, not a lot of pressure, Lisa, but I want them to make sure they've done their homework, and why they're calling me. And we could be just a
Sure.
casual conversation, just saying I want to introduce myself, and that's fine. And then we can take it from there. But these are all, eventually one time either a candidate now or a candidate down the road or a possible client, Lisa. So we treat them basically the same. And I think it's very important. I know a lot of people say, "Are you not interested in what I'm offering?" Well, I mean, it's an opportunity to get to know somebody, and the more people they tell to, and that's
Mm-hmm.
really how we treat a candidate calling in. Not much difference. Um, and also at the same time, you want to learn about their background fit and their culture. So the next time they do call in, you may be able to help them better. So maybe that would be something I want to go into a little bit further so I know what's going on with them. So they're just not calling blind the next time they contact us or we interact.
Mm-hmm. So I think the really juicy question that I should ask next has to do with what can a candidate say or do, or not say or do, I suppose, in those initial, particularly that first Zoom call or whatever technology you're using, that besides, separate from their qualifications, right? What's on paper, what you saw that you liked about them, what are the no-nos, or the yes yeses, I guess, that cause you to know that this is not somebody you want to move forward with? What are they doing or saying?
So, I mean, things like, well, I mean, I have like four questions that I ask. One of the questions is, tell me what you're looking to do next, right?
Hmm.
If they don't have any clarity behind that,
Ooh.
if they can't articulate what they're looking, well, I could do five different things. Well,
Yeah.
no, I mean, you can have one thing that you want to do and maybe another, but don't give me five things, right? The other one is if we're talking about what you're looking for, what you want to do next, and you really indicate that that you've got school age kids and you're not interested in moving,
Mm-hmm.
and my opportunity requires a relocation, there's a chasm there that can't be so we have to figure that piece of it out, because if you're not relocatable, my client's not going to be interested. I mean, it's okay. Nobody has to move. I don't. I mean, but
That position is just not the right one for them.
that's exactly right. The other one, and it's gotten a little dicier, but we're gonna, when you talk about compensation,
Okay.
because I'm going to talk about compensation on our first conversation. Now, I don't give salary ranges because we're talking about executive compensation. What I'm going to ask you is, give me an idea of your compensation expectations. Now, the reality is that most people will then say, well, I make this plus this, and then I'm looking for this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, but if I ask you about compensation, we need to talk about compensation, and not, well, I don't really do that now,
Yeah.
or I need to do, no, we're probably not going to have a follow-up conversation if you can't talk to me about compensation.
I think that's such a great point, and I will say to you both, I have done a 180 on that topic with my clients because back in the day, going back, there was a time when I would say, it's premature. If they're asking you questions, it's like you're on a first date and they're like, hey, where do you want to get married? And it's a little too early. But now, because of the world that we live in, the access to information for one thing, and the fact that everybody's trying not to waste each other's time, let's have that conversation up front, right? So maybe it's a question of, if we get married, I'm
Sure.
not saying
Well,
we are, but if we get married, where would you like to have it, right? Like it's
and
kind of
and
that conversation.
and when people push back a little bit, Lisa, I'll say, well, look, I'm not negotiating. Okay. What I'm trying to figure out is what bucket
Yes.
you're swimming in. What pool are you swimming in? Okay. And can my client also be in that pool? Okay.
Yes.
And we just need to know that. And if you push back well, you don't want to talk about that. It's there's a real chance that we don't have another conversation.
I think that's a good
And
message for the listeners is that you're not negotiating the salary for that particular job at that
No.
point. You're just trying to see, are we in the same ballpark? Can we get to the same ballpark? Is there a reason for us on that point? Is there a reason for us to continue conversation?
And Lisa, if I can add, I think when you were discussing, disqualifiers and not necessarily disqualifying them, but an overuse of buzzwords in these first
Mm,
conversations. I had a gentleman I was talking to last week, and he used granular 4 different times, and he liked the word, and I get it, but we're really looking for alignment with values, not just skills. He said, I have skills creating granular this and granular that. And I was just like, okay, I mean, that's not, that information is not going to be able, not good or bad, but I don't think the clients could be able to interpret it. So I cautioned him on that. So that may be that. And then, I mean, we can tell if you're a leader or not sometimes in the first 10 minutes. So
hmm
make sure you present yourself like that. And, you be confident in what you're trying to tell us, be articulate, explain it with the lowest common denominator. So that I just wanted to add those. So
I love that. So in some cases, it's a matter of they don't have or they won't articulate or can't articulate their next step. They don't know what they want. Sometimes they want too many things and they come across, I guess, to you as very unfocused. And in other cases, there is something about them that is antithetical to, geographic is one example, but it could also be, I don't know, something else, something about perhaps about the particular facility that I teach my clients in terms of what are their non-negotiables versus their gee, wouldn't it be nices? And I want them to
yeah,
have very clearly
Yeah,
those
that's a good
three to
one.
five, yeah, 3 to 5 non-negotiables and know what they are, and not waver on those. And I teach them if you've got 5 and this company has 4, guess what? That's not the company for you
yeah.
because you've said you cannot work somewhere that doesn't have all 5. Now, five's pushing it, I know, but 3 to 5, you've got
Well,
to be very clear on that.
there's a definite difference between needs and desires, and that has to be established up front too during that conversation. So
Yes.
again, it's not necessarily wasting my time, but it's wasting both of our times if we're talking about apples and oranges initially.
So, my listeners love concrete steps that they can take away. So, this is going to be there's 2 things I want to know. So, 3 to 5 things that you want executive recruitment candidates to know. We've talked about some of the things they shouldn't do, but what are some things that they can do to increase their chances when it's the right fit, right? We don't want to try to fit a square peg in a round hole, but when they believe fully that they are a good fit for this, what are 3 to 5 things that they should do to help get them through this process, make sure that they stay in the pile, if you will?
Well, I think to start with, Lisa, be prepared. They should read all the materials in advance, to make sure that I've had situations where they're flipping through it, and I get it, they may be referencing it, but read it in advance so we don't have to go backtrack over things. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
important. Um, it's hard to describe this, but present yourself professionally, to me. And a lot of it is making sure you understand your camera presence. They have a lot of things out there in the marketplace right now that figure out how you look during a Zoom call. Is your head in the same spot? Does it move back and forth?
Mhm.
And have that executive presence, like just like you're sitting across from a board member, they'll be hiring you. Um, Clear positive reasons for change. We don't want to hear your dirty laundry, sadly. It's like why you're looking, and don't bash your previous employer. I think that's really important. And be able to discuss your accomplishments, not just you held a job, you held this position. What were the accomplishments that you can articulate? Okay. Be positive about, and also being able to explain specifics and not just platitudes. Neill?
Kurt, I just have to like do it like jazz hands or something because you're just speaking my language. And,
Oh,
the way I explain the whole, like, don't bash your employer, I'm like, sometimes you have to tell the truth because if you don't tell the truth, then as recruiters, your antenna are going to be up like, yeah, you're looking for other opportunities, but you've already left the hospital. You were making a lot of like, what's really going on here? And I remember early on when I was doing some outplacement work, there was a hospital in Dothan, Alabama that I was sent to.
And we've both been there, by the way.
Oh,
Flowers Hospital
yeah.
or Dothan Regional?
I
We've
think it
we've
might have
been to
been,
both.
We've been to
Bert
okay.
and
both.
I
We've been to
together
both.
have been to both.
Neill and
Well,
I
this,
together have been to Dothan Regional. So, and so anyway, go
yeah, I
ahead.
think it
Sorry.
was Dothan Regional, but
Yeah.
it's been a while ago. But what I ended up being a coach to many of those people that were let go. And one of the things I taught them is when you can say, I was part of a $3.5 million budget reduction. There were 100, I think it was like 125 people that were let go, or 150 or something like that. It answers the question about why you're no longer working without the non-answer of, well, I was looking for a change. And then the antenna, if I were you, my antenna would be like, I want to know more, and I'm going to pick at it until I get something that satisfies me. So you can tell the truth as long as you don't bash anybody.
Right.
It's nobody's fault. You're just stating facts.
Sure.
All
Yeah,
right, Neil,
I
you,
agree. Okay, so you liked Kurt's. You said you were going to jazz him, but you may
I did a
hate
jazz
mine.
hand up.
You
Uh-oh.
you may hate mine. I'd really love, frankly, I'd love your input on it. Um, Again, I'm I don't want to keep harping on compensation, but let's talk about compensation for a second. In that, um, there's a way for you to present your compensation needs in a big enough way where you can get what you need without without pigeonholing yourself. So what
Okay.
recommend if somebody says, and you can even do this in writing and cover letters, is what you do is you take the lowest base you've made in the last 5 years. So
Okay.
let's say that base was 100,000. And then on the other side, you take your highest base in the 5 years, plus all incentive, plus your benefits. Now you have, oh, I have been making in the last 5 years anywhere in the range from 100 to 225. Now you've encompassed a very large box by doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
you haven't pigeonholed yourself,
True.
and you also haven't put yourself out in the market because you've gotten a low and a high. Does
And
that
then we
make
don't have
sense?
yeah, it does. Do we have any fear that the company would come back with a total compensation package closer to the lower end?
Well, they
And
certainly could.
they
They
could, but you
certainly
just
could.
wouldn't.
But I what I always tell people is, look, it's your right. You get to say no. You get to frame your own needs.
Exactly.
So you say, look, I'm used to making over the last 5 years anywhere from 100 to 250. Where I'm really looking to be is here.
Okay, so that was my next question. So and you're putting this in the cover letter, which I don't tell my clients to do, but now I'm kind of interested in this.
I don't know that frankly, I don't know that I would put the I'm looking to be in the cover letter. but the big wide range can definitely go in the cover letter because it's wide enough that you're going to get some attention.
Gotcha. I like it. All right. You got any others for me for the executive candidates that need little tips for them?
If I could add one more thing, Lisa, and it really ties on to what Neill said. When somebody's talking about compensation, I'm not referencing compensation, but the size of it. Vagueness is a real red flag. I mean, be specific.
Hmm.
I mean, this is the time for us to be honest with you and you honest with us. So, be very specific because, this whole thing, I'm open to anything, it doesn't sit well with me, and if you can't articulate what you want, like we work in all points of healthcare, but we work in faith-based systems. And if somebody says, uh, if you haven't, are you open to working in a faith-based system? Said, I'm open to that. You don't know what it is. So again, vagueness is a real red flag to me. This is the time for us to be very honest. Smaller words interpret better to me. Okay.
Well, everything that you have said is definitely transferable to really any kind of role that someone is working through an executive recruiter to get. I'm wondering, are there any other additional pieces of advice as someone, so you've identified someone as being a really good candidate and you've moved past those initial phases and now they're meeting with whomever they need to meet with at the hospital or the medical whatever facility, whatever it is. Are there any other additional tips or tricks, just little words of wisdom that you can give
Sure,
folks as they get further through that funnel?
sure. So you want to show a genuine interest both in the role and the organization. Um, and you can do that without appearing desperate, right?
Mhm.
But if you're not looking, you get to tell me once you're not looking, and then that's it. Don't all the way through the process tell me that you're not looking, okay? That you've got a great job.
You
Tell
are
me
looking.
once. Tell me once, okay? That's all you need to tell me. Um, you know, listen, I I I've interviewed about 10,000 executives. Do you know how many work for micromanagers?
Do they all say that they do?
All of them. Of those 10,000 executives, do you know how many said they were micromanagers?
I'm going to say zero.
Exactly. It's a huge delta, right? Um, uh, you can spin things positively, but don't ever lie to me. Okay.
Hmm.
But when I say me, I mean somebody who's in my role, right?
Right.
I had one candidate who called me and said, Neil, I think I made a mistake. I lied to a potential opportunity. They were, interviewing. I told them a lie about why I was on the market, and they caught me. What do I do? And I said, well, I mean, I mean, there's not
It's,
anything.
yeah.
You go tell the truth, and then take your consequences. They're probably going to pull the offer. But the other part is that they told me that too.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
Ew. Yeah. Okay. So good tip.
And
Don't lie at any point in this. Don't
Just
lie.
don't lie. You can shade. You can give us the best viewpoint.
Right.
But
Different.
don't
Different.
but don't but yeah, don't lie.
I
Okay.
uh, I live by Mark Twain's quote, always tell the truth and you'll have less to remember.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, I'm with you.
and I think, Lisa, if I can add, you said, I think the question was, how do you remain that top candidate? Well, uh, don't let, if the job's not offered, or maybe you decide differently, don't let that, tips for your viewers, don't let that affect you. It might be just a miss of background and fit. That doesn't mean that you're any less. Keep positive, and in our eyes, keep professionally in contact with us. as we go down the road. And that's how you remain a top candidate, to say, just it's not a right fit, or, accept if they don't get the
Mm-hmm.
job graciously. It just may not be right. So don't let that discourage you. And also, if it doesn't discourage you, you'll still keep in the marketplace as a top candidate. So I think that's very important. A lot of people say, well, I've tried twice and I'm done. No, it's just,
No.
we're looking at a culture and fit now, and everything is just, there's so many different differentials in the marketplace now. Hiring requirements, what they're looking for, fits are getting tougher and tougher. It really is. So don't let it discourage you. Remain a top candidate. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a big part of what I work with on my clients as they execute on their job search is what they are making the rejections, and as I call it, the crickets, which is mostly what they hear. They
right.
don't get rejections as much as they just hear nothing or they get ghosted. And what they make that mean says everything about the results that they're going to get. And they have to decide, and I offer them I think of it as like going into your closet and picking out the outfit you want to wear. Like, do you want to think like, oh, I thought that would have been a great opportunity, but something better must be coming along? Do I want to think, oh, they were just mistaken when they didn't think I was the best candidate? Like, it's all just as opposed to like, I am terrible. I'm not qualified. Those are never going to get you the results that you want. So you have to keep that mindset in a
And,
positive place.
and the other part is, and it's unfortunate, and we try extremely hard to communicate with our candidates in as we can. Um, but if you've got somebody that is ghosting you, okay, they may not verbally be telling you something, but they are telling you something, and that you need to take that and move on.
Because what they may be telling you is we, company that we are a member of, we don't have our act together.
That's exactly right.
It's so you get again, I think it is fascinating to work with clients as a coach and see what their brain makes something mean, because when you're being ghosted, that is available to you. Like you don't have any facts, so why not choose to believe that that company is not a good fit, they are not organized, and they are not valuing me as the valuable candidate that I am, as opposed to there's something wrong with me.
No, I absolutely agree.
All right. Anything else? This has been such fun. I love getting your perspective on this process. Anything else you want to tell us? And then we're going to talk about how they can find you.
I think we covered everything, Lisa.
Did we hit it? Good.
Well,
Mission
if I
accomplished.
if I could add or disclose, Lisa, it's a different world. We
Mm,
um, face-to-face interviews are a thing of the past. I mean, obviously, when you get to the final stages, but a lot of this is done on the internet, as we all know. I mean, the world's changed. Chat GPT is here to stay. All that. So body language is out. I remember what I used to teach an interview class years ago in my job, and a lot of it was how you position yourself, how eye contact with the interviewer.
hmm.
That's out right now. So sit there and say, how do I communicate the best? What do I want to be? How do I communicate myself without this body language? So it's just really important to think that in your mind and say, how do I play to the camera, if you will? How do I how
Yeah.
do I how do I do that? A lot of people don't think about that. They're looking elsewhere, up and down and everything. So I mean, just have them think about that and think in the back of the line. It's changed from what was 5 years ago. COVID changed a lot, as we all know. So just it could be a sea change like the Tempest with Shakespeare. It's a different world than interviewing now. So be adaptive,
Hmm.
read on it. And there's a lot of good tips, not just what we're doing, we're talking about. There's a lot of good books out there, and there's a lot of good information out there. So again, it's been
Yes.
exciting being with you today.
Yes. Yes. I think that's such a great point that you were talking about filler words or kind of buzzwords. It's so much more important that you speak properly, because some of the other things that we were measured on as candidates back in the day are not being measured. The body language, they can only see us from here up. And so we have to be even more articulate and thoughtful about how we speak in the words we use. So thank you guys so much. Tell them how they can find you. And I'm going to put it in the show notes as well.
Oh, they can find us on our website, which is healthsearchpartners.com, or they can connect with me, and I'm sure also with Neill on LinkedIn. We're on all the time. our 90-day series is on there, they may want to look into that because there's several different podcasts on our 90-day series and articles we've written on LinkedIn, so they may have an interest to that. Neill?
Excellent.
Yeah, no. Especially if you're a healthcare executive and you're looking to advance your career or to attract